by the end of his pencil and frown when it comes to drawing his Easter picture for his legitimate pictorial concepts of the figures pertinent to the festival but are but four in number. एक आर्टिस्ट के बारे में बात कर रहा
अभी शुरुआत की है.
हूँ. हाँ, द डे रिसर्जेंट. वो तो पिछली बार तो खत्म हो गई ना. First comes Easter, pagan goddess of the spring. Here is fancy में है free play. अब spring की बात हो रही है तो उसका मतलब रचना अपने हिसाब से चलेगी. A beautiful maiden with decorative hair and proper number of toes will fill the bill. Miss Clarice Saint Vavasour, the well-known model, will pose for it in the Lether Go Gallagher, or whatever it was that Trilby called it. Second, the melancholy lady with upturned eyes in a framework of lilies. This is magazine covery but reliable. Third, Miss Manhattan in the Fifth Avenue Easter Sunday parade. Fourth, Maggie Murphy with new red feather in her old straw hat, happy and self-conscious in the Grand Street turnout. मतलब वो बता रहा है वहाँ के लोगों का कि अगर स्प्रिंग की करनी है तो कौन कौन से वो होते हैं. The limited field of its pictorial possibility proves that Easter of all our festival days is the most vague and shifting in our conception. फिर बात करता है ईस्टर की कि कैसा होता है. It belongs to all religions, although the pagans invented it. हालांकि पेगन्स ने इन्वेंट किया था ईस्टर को, पर सब रिलीजन्स का है, मुसलमानों का, ईसाइयों का, सबका है. Going back still further to the first spring, we can see Eve choosing with pride a new green leaf from the tree Focus Carica. Now, the object of this critical and learned preamble is to set forth the theorem that Easter is neither a date, a season, a festival, a holiday, not an occasion. What it is, you shall find out if you follow in the footsteps of Danny McCree. Easter क्या है तो Danny McCree. Easter Sunday dawned as it should, bright and early in its place on the calendar between Saturday and Monday. Easter calendar आया, Easter आता Saturday Monday का. At 5:24 the sun rose and at 10:30 Danny followed its example. 5:30 पे सूरा उठा और 10:30 पे Danny उठे. He went into the kitchen and washed his face at the sink. His mother was frying bacon. उसकी mother थी bacon. She looked at his hand, smooth knowing countenance as he juggled with a round cake of soap, and thought of his father when she first saw him stopping a hot grounder between the second and third 22 years ago on a vacant lot in Harlem. माँ ने उस लड़के को देखा, फिर उसको माँ को उसके बेटे की अपने पति की याद आ गई. बेसिकली ये था. Where the La Paloma apartment house now stands. In the front room of the flat, Danny's father sat by an open window, smoking his pipe, with his disheveled grey hair tossed about by the breeze. He still clung to his pipe, although his sight had been taken from him 2 years ago by a precautious blast of giant powder that went off without permission. Father अंधे हो गए थे, मोटे. Very few blind men care for smoking for the reason that they cannot see the smoke. अब बहुत सारे जो blind लोग हैं वो smoke नहीं करते, smoke देख ही नहीं सकते. Now, could you enjoy having the news read to you from an evening newspaper unless you could see the colors of its headlines? This Easter day, said Mrs. McCree. Scramble mine, said Danny. आज ईस्टर है, मिस मैक्री ने कहा, स्क्रैम्बल करो. After breakfast, he dressed himself in the Sabbath morning costume of the Canal Street, importing house tray chauffeur, frock coat, striped trousers, patent leathers, gilded trace chain across front of the waist, and wing collar, rolled brim derby, and butterfly bro from Schonstein's between 14th Street and Tony's Fruit Stand Saturday night sale. उसने अच्छे कपड़े पहने, मतलब मोटा मोटी ये मानो ईस्टर का सा. You'll be going out this day, of course, Danny, said the old man, McCree a little wistfully. This kind of holiday, say, well, it's fine, spring weather. I can feel it in there. Spring आ गया है, अब तुम जाओगे बाहर ना घूमने के लिए. Why should I not be going out? Demanded Danny, in his grumpiest chest tones. Should I stay in? Am I as good as a horse? One day of test, my team has a week. Who wants the money for the rent and the breakfast you just eat? I'd like to know. Answer me that. बोला भाई जो ब्रेकफास्ट वगैरह का जो है कौन करता है खर्च घर का खर्चा कौन चला रहा है मैं चला रहा हूँ आज जाऊँगा All right, lad, said the old man, I'm not complaining. While me two eyes was good, there was nothing better to my mind than a Sunday out. There's a smell of turf and burning brush coming in the windy. I have meat tobacco. A good fine day and rest to ye, lad. अच्छा दिन हो तुम जाओ घूमो घामो ऐश करो Times I wish your mother had learned to read so I might hear the rest about the hippopotamus, but let that be. तुम्हें माँ को पढ़ना नहीं आता नहीं तो मुझे कोई कहानी पढ़ के सुना दे Now that, what is this foolishness? He talks of hippopotamuses, asked Danny of his mother as he passed through the kitchen. Have you been taking him to the zoo and for what? I have not, said Mrs. McCree. He sits by the windy all day. This little recreation a blind man among the poor gets at all. I'm thinking they wander in their minds at times. भाई वो बैठे रहते हैं उनके दिमाग ऐसे चलता रहता है अब वो हिपोपोटामस के बारे में जानना चाहता है One day he talks of Greece without stopping for most of an hour. I looks to see if there is a lard burning in the frying pan. There is not. He says I do not understand. This very day, Sundays and holidays and all for a blind man Danny, there was no better, no stronger than him when he had his two eyes. The Sunday इनको कट के काटता है जब ये ठीक थे तब जिंदगी बहुत अच्छी थी This a fine day, son. Enjoy yourself against the morning. There will be cold supper at 6. 6 बजे मैं तुम्हें खाना लगा दूंगी जाओ अपना enjoy करो. Have you heard any talk of hippopotamus? Asked Danny of Mike the janitor as he went downstairs. तो Danny नीचे गया janitor से बोला कि भाई have you heard of it? I have not, said Mike, pulling his shirt sleeves higher. But this is the only subject in the animal, natural and illegal list of outrages that I have not been complained to about these 2 days. See the landlord or else move out if you like. Have you hippopotamuses in the lease? No, then. It was the old man who spoke of it, said Danny. Likely there's nothing in it. मेरे जो ओल्ड मैन है वो बोले हिप्पोपोटामस में कुछ सोचा जैनेटर से बोला अरे नहीं 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 रेंटल लीज की बात करो मुझे इसके आगे कुछ बात नहीं करनी Danny walked up the street to the avenue and then struck northwards into the heart of the district where Eastern, modern Easter and new bright lament leads the Paschal March. Out of the towering brown churches came the blithe music of anthems from the choirs. The broad sidewalks were moving parterres of living flowers, and so it seems when your eyes looked upon the Easter girls. अब वो डिस्क्राइब करा है कि ईस्टर कैसा था उसमें नहीं आ Gentlemen, frock coated, silk hatted, gardened, sustained the background of the tradition. Children carried lilies in their hands. The windows of the brownstone mansions were packed with the most opulent creations of Flora, the sister of the ladies of the lilies. Around a corner, white cloth, pink kilt, and tightly buttoned, walked Corrigan the cop, shield to the curb. Danny knew him. Why, Corrigan asked, in Easter, I know it comes the first time you're full after the moon rises on the 17th of March. But why? Is it proper and a religious ceremony or does the governor appoint it out of politics? ये जो सेलिब्रेशन हो रहा है ईस्टर का ये क्या प्रॉपर इन वो है कि भाई कि गवर्नर ने पॉलिटिक्स के मामले में किया है This is an annual celebration at Corrigan with the judicial air of third deputy police commissioner. Peculiar to New York, it extends up to Harlem. हाँ ये ईस्टर की जो सेलिब्रेशन है ये हार्लेम तक आती है अच्छा गुड फ्राइडे तो आने वाला होगा ना इसीलिए अच्छा है Sometimes they has the reserves out at 125th Street. In my opinion, it's not political. Thanks, said Danny, and say, did you ever hear a man complain of hippopotamuses? When not, especially in drink. I mean, कभी किसी को hippopotamus के बारे में बोलते देखा है? Nothing larger than sea turtles, said Corrigan, reflecting, and there was wood alcohol in that. अरे कुछ sea turtles से ज़्यादा बड़े होते हैं बस ज़्यादा Danny wondered The double heavy incumbency of enjoying simultaneously a Sunday and a festival day was his. The sorrows of the hand toiler fit him easily. They are worn so often that they hang with the picturesque lines of the best tailor made garments. That is why well fed artists of pencil and pen find in the Greeks the common people their most striking models. But when the Philistine would disport himself, the grimness of Melpomene herself attends upon its capers. Therefore, Danny set his jaw hard at Easter and took his pleasure sadly. The family entrance of Dugan's cafe was feasible, so Danny yielded to the vernal season as far as a glass of bock. Seated in the dark, lino learned, humid back room, his heart and mind still groped after the mysterious meaning of the springtime jubilee. Say, Tim, he said to the waiter, why do they have Easter? ये बात करता है कि ईट Easter क्यों है? Skeeto, said Tom, closing a sophisticated eye. Is that a new one? कहीं नहीं क्या बात कर रहे हो? From Duke, all right, Tony passed us for you last night. I guess I give it up. What's the answer? 2 apples or a yard and a half? From Dugan's Dally, Danny turned back eastward. The April sun seemed to stir in him a vague feeling that he could not construe. He made a wrong diagnosis and decided it was Katie Conlon. A block from her house on Avenue A, he met her going to the church. They pumped hands on the corner. Gee, but you look dumpish and dressed up, said Katie. What's wrong? Come away with me to church and be cheerful. Katie church जा रही थी तो कह रही थी चलो आओ चर्च चलते हैं और खुश रहो. What's doing at church? Said Danny. Why, it's Easter Sunday, silly. I waited till after 11 expecting that you might come along. केटी बोली मैं 11 बजे तक वेट कर रही थी चले तुम आओगे तो आज ईस्टर है ईस्टर का संडे पे चलते हैं. What does this Easter stand for, Katie? Asked Danny gloomily. Nobody seems to know. किसी को पता नहीं है. Nobody as blind as you, said Katie with spirit. You haven't even looked at my new hat and skirt. Why, it's when all the girls put on new spring clothes, silly. Are you coming to church with me? तुम चर्च चल रहे हो कि नहीं चल रहे हो? आज बड़ा अच्छा दिन है, खुशी का दिन है, चर्च चलो. I will, said Danny. If this Easter is pulled off there, they ought to be able to give some excuse for it. Not that the hand ain't a beauty, the green roses are great. At church, the preacher did some expounding with no pounding. He spoke rapidly, for he was in a hurry to get home to his early Sabbath dinner. तो प्रीचर जो था वो जल्दी जल्दी कुछ बोला पर उसको भी घर जाना था उसको डिनर खाना था बट ही न्यू हिज बिजनेस देयर वाज वन वर्ड दैट कंट्रोल्ड हिज थीम रिसरेक्शन एक चीज जो थी ना उसने बोली रिसरेक्शन नॉट अ न्यू क्रिएशन बट अ न्यू लाइफ अराइजिंग आउट ऑफ द ओल्ड the congregation had heard of it often before, but there was a wonderful hat, a combination of sweet peas and lavender, in the sixth pew from the pulpit. It attracted much attention. पीछे sixth pew from the pulpit एक सुंदर सा hat था और बहुत attention जो attract करा था. After church, Danny lingered on a corner while Katie waited with pique in her sky blue eyes. Are you coming along to the house? She asked. But don't mind me, I'll get there all right. You seem to be studying a lot about something, all right. Will I see you at any time, especially Mr. McCree? I'll be around Wednesday night as usual, said Danny, turning and crossing the street. Wednesday को मैं आऊँगा ठीक है ना तो street cross कर गया. Katie walked away with the green roses handling and dangling indignantly. Danny stopped 2 blocks away. He stood still with his hands in his pockets at the curb on the corner. His face was that of a graven image. Deep in his soul, something stirred so small, so fine, so keen and leavening that his heart fibers did not recognize it. वो कुछ खड़ा हुआ था कुछ सोच रहा था उसके अंदर में कुछ चंचलता थी. It was something more tender than the April, more subtle than the call of the senses, purer and deep rooted than the love of woman. For he had not turned away from the green roses and eyes that had kept him chained for a year. And Danny did not know what it was. The preacher, who was in a hurry to go to his dinner, had told him, but Danny had had no libretto with which to follow the drowsy intonation. But the preacher spoke the truth. Suddenly, Danny slapped his leg and gave forth a hoarse yell of delight. Hippopotamus! He shouted to an elevated load pillar. Why, how is it that for a bum guess with plasma skylights, I know what he was driving at now? हिप्पोपोटामस की तरफ जा रहा था, ठीक है ना? Hippopotamus, won't that send you to the Bronx? It's been a year since he heard it, and he didn't miss it so very far. We quit at 469 BC, and this comes next. Well, a wooden man wouldn't have guessed what he was trying to get out of him. Danny caught a crosstown car and went up to the rear flat that his labor supported. Old man McCree was still sitting by the window. His extinct pipe lay on the sill. Will that be you, lad? He asked. Danny flared into the rage of a strong man who's surprised at the outset of committing a good deed. Who pays the rent and buys the food that is eaten in this house? He snapped viciously. Have I no right to come in? Ye are a faithful lad, said the old man Cree with a sigh. Is it evening yet? Danny reached up on a shelf and took down a thick book labeled in gilt letters. The History of Greece. तो वो गया, उसने एक बड़ी सी किताब निकाली, द हिस्ट्री ऑफ ग्रीस. डस्ट वॉज ऑन इट हाफ एन इंच थिंक, और उसके ऊपर डस्ट थी आधे इंच की. He laid it on the table and found a place in it marked by a strip of paper. And then he gave a short roar at the top of his voice and said, was it the hippopotamus that you wanted to be read to about then? तो वो किताब से उसने हिप्पोपोटामस की जो थी ना वो निकली. Did I hear you open the book? Said the old man McCree. Many and weary be the months since my lad has read it to me. मामा, उसका लैड साल में एक बार पढ़ रहा, तुम्हारा लैड हर रोज पढ़ता है. Read it to me. I don't know, but I took a great liking to them Greeks. मुझे ग्रीक्स का जो बहुत पसंद था. You left off at a place. This a fine day outside, lad. Be out and take rest from your work. I've gotten used to meet here by the windy me and the pipe. Peloponnese was the place where we had left off, and not hippopotamus. तो बोला हिप्पोपोटामस नहीं, पेलोपेलोनियस थी जिसकी बात हो रही थी. तो हिप्पोपोटामस सोच के बैठा हुआ था. सेड डैनी. द वॉर बिगैन देयर. लड़ाई वहां शुरू हुई थी. तो उसको फादर को उसकी किताब को पढ़ना जो था ना बहुत अच्छा लगता था. तो आज वो बोला हिप्पोपोटामस. तो ऐसे हिप्पोपोटामस पोटामस ईस्टर गया, संडे गया, सडनली याद आ रहा, अरे हिप्पोपोटामस, वो तो किताब के बारे में बोल रहे थे. तो घर आकर के उसने किताब निकाली और वो बाबा को किताब पढ़ने लगा अपने. The war began there. It kept something down for 30 years. The headlines say that a guy named Philip of Macedon in 338 BC got to be the boss of Greece by getting a decision at the Battle of Sharonoka. I'll read it. With his hand to his ear, wrapped in the Peloponnesian wall, the old man McCree sat for an hour listening. तो एक घंटे तक वो किताब पढ़ता रहा. Then he got up and felt his way to the door of the kitchen. Mrs. McCree was slicing cold meat. She looked up. Tears were running from the old man McCree's eyes. Do you hear a lad reading to me? He said. There's none fitter in the land. My two eyes have come back to me. तो मेरे लड़के को कहानी सुनते देखती हो, मेरी दोनों आंखें वापस आ गई हैं. इससे बढ़िया कोई नहीं पढ़ सकता. After supper, he said to Danny, this is a happy day this Easter, and now you be off to see Katie in the evening. Well enough. अब जाओ केटी से मिल के आओ, बहुत ही अच्छा ईस्टर गया. Who pays the rent and buys the food that is eaten in this house? Said Danny angrily. Have I no right to stay it in? After supper, there is yet to come the reading of the Battle of the Corinth. और खाने के बाद हम दूसरी का बैटल ऑफ द कॉरिंथ के बारे में पढ़ेंगे. 146 BC, when the kingdom, as they say, became as an integral portion of the Roman Empire. Am I nothing in this house? और ये कहानी खत्म हो गई.
अच्छा अब क्या है, टोटल क्या है?
टोटल वहाँ कहानी ये है कि फादर को अटेंशन चाहिए, तो उसकी आंखें चली गई थी ना. हाँ. वो कहानी पढ़ता था तो फादर को याद आ रही थी, और ईस्टर के कहानी पढ़ते सुनता था ना, क्योंकि आंखें चली गई थी ना. हाँ. आंखें सुनता था ना. तो लड़के का हो गया था कि भाई उसने अपने फादर को कहानी सुनाई.
अच्छा हुआ क्या फिर? उसने कहा, पिता ने कहा
हिप्पोपोटामस ना, तो बोला हिप्पोपोटामस की क्या बात हो रही है.